This narrative unfolds a series of deeply personal stories, each revealing unique battles with relationships, parenting, and life-changing events. Through these confessions, we gain a poignant glimpse into the emotional struggles individuals endure and their regrets about the choices they've made along the way. My husband and I are both 28 now, high school sweethearts with 3 children together. He's the only boyfriend I ever had. Over the years, I've known he's always battled low self-esteem, which is a different level of struggle compared to my own challenges. Around 7 years ago, we upgraded our family plan phones, and somehow their synchronizing allowed me to see his text messages too. I don't think he ever realized this, though theoretically, he could have seen mine as well. For a couple of years, I occasionally peeked at his messages, usually near his birthday or Christmas, to figure out what he wanted as a surprise gift. It felt harmless, maybe even thoughtful. One November, when I was pregnant with our second child, I was being curious again, hoping to find clues for a Christmas gift. That's when I stumbled upon a message that stopped my heart. He had asked someone where they could meet. Naturally, my first fear was he might be having an affair. But as I read further, I realized this wasn't about another woman. It was about something darker. He wasn't buying drugs or drinking. Our lives have always been pretty boring in that sense. No, but he was buying something to end his life. That realization struck me in the gut. I searched our bedroom thoroughly, but found nothing. Later that night, as he slept beside me, I went through his emails and browser history and uncovered everything. He'd been researching lethal substances, costs of cremation, and even checking our life insurance payout. Most painful of all, he seemed to have chosen a date 3 months after our second child was due. The thought that he planned to be gone, to abandon me and our children deliberately, crushed me. The very next day, while he was in the shower, I took his phone and texted the person he'd been messaging. My message was clear: I'm no longer interested. If anyone else contacts you from this number, ignore them. They're not me. Then I deleted the thread and blocked the number. He never learned I intervened. From that moment, I made it my mission to show him how much he mattered, that he was wanted and deeply needed by his family. Even if it made me look foolish, I didn't care. I started packing little gifts with his lunch. When he came home, I greeted him as if he'd been gone for months, hugging, kissing, telling him how much I missed him. I praised him in front of others, called him during work just to hear his voice, and asked when he'd be home. Every single day, I made sure he knew I loved him and couldn't face life without him. Eventually, I encouraged him to start therapy. One sleepless night, I woke him up to share a nightmare where he had died. His response, "Why is that a bad thing?" shattered me. I told him he was my everything, the reason outside our kids that I woke in the morning. He questioned, "Wouldn't things be better if I were out of your way?" I assured him no, it would ruin me if he left. When he said financial security was more important, I told him I'd rather be poor with him than rich and alone. He admitted he hadn't known I felt that way so strongly. After that, I joined him in therapy. My honesty helped him acknowledge he might be depressed. He began medication soon after, and slowly, life improved. It's been 5 years since that dark chapter. I still make an effort every day to remind him he matters. I still call him handsome, bring flowers sometimes, cheer when he walks in the door, because even now, I want him to never doubt that he's the center of my world. And he still doesn't know that I was the one who stopped him from taking that fatal step. And I intend to keep it that way. I despise my life. I despise being a father. I despise what my life has become. And what wounds me most is that I foresaw it all, yet still walked right into the trap. Having never truly wanted children, I was honest with my wife from the start. Maybe one child, but definitely not more. But as friends around us began having kids, I observed the reality beneath the surface. Even parents with so-called easy kids appeared exhausted, anxious, and burdened, their smiles forced by exhaustion. Parenthood looked more like a trap than a treasure. Then tragedy struck when my wife's sister died. Her grief transformed family into the ultimate priority. I understood her pain, but I couldn't share the urgency She felt about legacy, giving our parents grandkids in honor of her sister. Despite my objections, my wife wouldn't relent, and eventually her parents intervened, promising support in every way possible. They painted a picture of parenthood as a seamless Disney montage. Joyful moments like birthdays and school plays, with them handling the hardships. I foolishly bought into it. We had our son. The early years were rough, but I hoped it would just be a phase. Instead, he was diagnosed with oppositional defiant disorder, a fancy term meaning his default behavior was rebellion for rebellion's sake. He was cruel, vindictive, and constantly testing limits. Now that he's 11, that diagnosis feels like a life sentence. Each day is a battleground. The grandparents, who promised hands-on help, vanished when he was only 4, exhausted by his behavior. Tonight broke me. I came home after 6 consecutive workdays to find him spitting on a neighbor's door because of a delayed package delivery. I calmly reminded him that wasn't acceptable, but he stormed upstairs, found my only box of childhood memories, photos, letters, keepsakes from my deceased parents, and urinated on it. That box was the last sacred piece of my past, destroyed for no reason other than spite. Now, I sit alone in a dark parking lot, unsure if I'll even go back home tonight. This isn't a plea for help or advice. I've tried every parenting book, therapy, behaviors, reward charts, consequences, gentle parenting, tough love. Nothing has worked. The only constant is my own weakness. What hurts most is that I knew this life wasn't for me, yet I let myself be convinced otherwise. I failed to stand my ground, letting guilt, obligation, and emotion drown out my own truth. Now at 45, I cry in my car, mourning a life I never lived. My marriage is barely hanging on. My wife has emotionally checked out. The resentment between us is so thick, I cannot even look at her without recalling promises like, "You won't have to do this alone." And yet, I am alone. I hate that I lost my freedom, my peace, my identity. I hate how parenthood aged me, making me less patient, less kind, less human. And yes, I hate my son, or at least what he has come to represent. Every bad decision I ever made. I carry guilt for resenting him, but have no safe place to express it. So I shove it all down, only to have it grow heavier with each year. If you're unsure about having children, hear me now. Don't do it. Don't do it because your partner wants them, your parents want grandkids, where you think you'll grow into it. You won't. Parenthood is a 24/7, forever commitment, not a phase to outgrow. It exacts a price in time, money, marriage, and sanity. And when those who promise to help disappear, you're left holding the wreckage alone. I had a chance to avoid this life. I saw every red flag, felt every doubt, but I was weak. I let my life become a nightmare of my own making, and now I live with that choice every day. At 21, my life took an unexpected turn with a simple, unplanned purchase at a gas station, a lottery ticket. I didn't even check the numbers that night. It was only the next morning, while eating bland cereal in my cramped apartment, that I discovered I had won approximately $14 million. Most people see winning the lottery as a dream come true, a blessing that changes life for the better. But for me, at 33 years old, and having kept this secret for over a decade, that one brought loneliness instead of joy. I live in a state where lottery winners can remain anonymous, and that anonymity was crucial. If I hadn't been able to stay under the radar, I doubt I could have kept the secret. I chose to tell no one, not family, friends, or co-workers, with purpose. My upbringing was starkly different. I grew up with almost nothing. My parents were alcoholic and neglectful, often volatile, and perpetually struggling financially. By 18, I was on my own, left with no support or guidance, fully aware that if I wanted more from life, I had to achieve it solo. Revealing my fortune would have changed everything. My parents might come back with apologies and ask for money. Relatives I barely know would suddenly seem entitled and needy. Friends who I'd seen turn envious when others succeed. would treat me differently, tainted by jealousy. I knew that if the truth came out, none of my relationships would feel genuine anymore. As I quietly navigated this new reality, my view of those around me shifted dramatically. What hadn't changed were the people, but my perception of their intentions did. Every compliment felt suspect. Social gatherings became transactions. Trust evaporated. I began to question the sincerity of all my connections. I kept working a steady, uninspiring middle-income job to maintain appearances. I purchased a modest condo outright, but claimed it was a gift from a deceased relative. I bought a Ducati and credited it to a fantastic year-end bonus. I even acquired a small boat, telling friends it was on credit to impress potential dates. I let people believe whatever they wanted. It was simple that way, but the paranoia runs deep. I never flaunt my wealth, not because of modesty, but fear. Fear that if anyone starts doubting or investigating, my carefully constructed illusion will shatter. Then I'd be exposed as a liar, not for winning, but for hiding it. That thought is terrifying. How do you tell friends that while eating ramen during college, you actually had 7 figures in the bank? How do you explain why you never helped when they struggled financially? The reality is far more complicated, but the burden of truth frightens me. Still, I try to use the money for good, anonymously and quietly. I've donated under fake names to my old high school, so kids like me can get supplies. I've paid off medical bills for strangers on crowdfunding sites. I even bought a car for a single mom juggling 2 jobs who thinks it was a dealership promotion. Despite these acts, the loneliness persists. No matter how much I give, it doesn't replace real connection. My relationships rarely last beyond a few months or years because trust is so fragile. Love built on half-truths never feels genuine. Yet being truthful might risk everything I've built. Some nights I wonder if I'll ever tell anyone. Maybe someday, I'll find someone who loves me without money. Or I might write a letter to open after I'm gone, explaining this life of secrecy wasn't about the wealth. It was about trust and the extreme scarcity of it in my world. People often assume the darkest secrets involve wrongdoing or sins, but sometimes they're the ones that look like blessings from the outside. They force you to live a life so carefully guarded that even your closest friends never truly know you. So yes, I won the lottery, but some days I long to return to being broke, truly anonymous, not playing a part, because pretending eventually takes its toll. In 2009, my life changed forever when I suffered a traumatic brain injury so severe that I literally died for a time. My heart stopped and my brain shut down. For 3 days, the doctors weren't optimistic about my survival, but against all odds, I pulled through. Yet, the person who left the hospital was not the one who entered. I returned fundamentally altered. The most profound change was permanent amnesia. I lost all memories of my childhood, couldn't recall my mother's voice or face, or even recognize my own reflection for a long time. That entire first 20 years of my life vanished, as if belonging to someone else. This loss was devastating, but what hurt even more was feeling utterly disconnected in a world where everyone else still remembered. I was surrounded by stories, laughter, and memories I couldn't grasp, forcing me to fake smiles and nod along, which was exhausting. Acceptance took nearly 5 years. Only then did I come to terms with my erased past, but the challenges didn't stop there. I soon realized I couldn't feel fear anymore. Everyday dangers, a growling dog, a swerving car, a scream nearby, stirred no instinctual response in me. After consulting a neurologist, I learned my amygdala, the brain's fear center, had been permanently damaged. Losing fear seemed liberating at first, but it quickly revealed itself as a curse. Fear acts as a vital safety boundary, preventing reckless actions and warning of real danger. Without it, I was left questioning what could possibly hold me back. Alongside this, my emotional connection to others, especially my then wife, vanished. Our bond was no longer visceral. It felt like I was watching from behind a glass wall. The distance grew until our marriage ultimately crumbled. A heartbreak I acknowledge was understandably one-sided. The emotions that remained became intense and overwhelming. Love now consumed me, bordering on obsession. I desperately wanted to protect those I cared for with no middle ground. When anger surfaced, it was like molten lava erupting without warning. Though I never harmed anyone, the tightness in my chest and clenched fists scared me. To cope, I isolate myself to calm down, carefully monitoring my face, voice, and eye contact to avoid alarming others. Most people see me as calm and collected, but internally I'm constantly battling to keep myself together. I don't share this for pity or fear, nor to seem unstable, but to confess the reality of surviving something that didn't just change my life. It changed who I am. I'm no longer the man I once was. I don't even remember that man. Every day, I strive to be someone safe, loving, and strong enough to keep the darkness at bay. If you ever meet someone who seems distant or intense, know they might be struggling as fiercely as I do, just to hold it together. That's my life now, one of quiet endurance and relentless effort to stay whole. My daughter was born into a body that fought against itself from the very start. She carried multiple congenital defects. Every organ seemed to come with its own complication. Doctors would fix one issue only to have another surface. From day one, she was a medically complex child, and I believe there was never a moment when we weren't facing some kind of health crisis. She lived for 11 years, though honestly, I think she lived 9 years too many. Saying that isn't easy. It's a harsh truth I carry and barely can confront directly. I fought for her life like a soldier with no backup plan, never pausing to ask if she wanted to keep fighting. Most of her life was spent in hospitals, sometimes months at a time, with only a few brief stays at home in between. When she was home, it felt like we were just waiting for the next hospitalization. She never experienced more than 2 consecutive months outside the hospital until we made the difficult decision to transition to palliative care. The hospital corridors became her comfort zone, more familiar than our own neighborhood. She knew every nurse by name, every machine sound, and every routine like clockwork. That sterile, blinking world became the place she called home. Known as the warrior kid to hospital staff, she was the one who made cards for nurses and insisted on decorating every piece of medical equipment with bright tape and glittery stickers. Her 4 poles looked more like art projects than medical devices. That was the world she lived in. Not school, not sports, not piano recitals or sleepovers, just doctors, nurses, surgeries, and exhaustion. And I was the one who let that become her life. I was the one who gave her that life. In her final 6 months, something changed. The fighter I knew grew tired. Not just a normal tiredness fixed by rest or medication, but a deep, bone-weary exhaustion. She was done. She told me in her own way, time and again, that she wanted to stop fighting, but I refused to hear her. To accept her wishes would mean letting go, and I just wasn't ready. I pushed back every time she expressed it, promising her more surgeries, new medications, just a little more time. Promises I knew I couldn't keep. Eventually, she stopped arguing and simply went along, but her smiles faded and she grew quiet. When she passed away, it wasn't peaceful as I told myself it would be. She died agitated, scared, not for herself, but I think terrified for me. She knew I wasn't ready to let go, and that fear weighed on her final moments. I hate that. I hate that she died worrying about how I'd survive without her. This is where it all comes down to. I wasn't strong enough to let her go. I forced her to live longer than she should have, to suffer more than necessary. I thought I was doing what any parent would do, believing more time was always better. But time without peace, without dignity, is just prolonged suffering. I'm haunted by the nights I told her hold on, knowing deep down there was nothing left to hold on to. By the look she gave me when she thought I wasn't paying attention, grotesque, desperate looks searching for a way to say, "I'm done." She was one of the strongest people I've ever known, braver than anyone I've met. I wish I had the courage to give her the same gift, to sit quietly with her and say, "It's okay, you don't have to fight anymore." But I didn't. I clung to her until the end, and that cost her dearly. If there's one confession I need to make, it's that I was selfish. Not intentionally, but I needed her. I needed her presence because the thought of living without her felt unbearable, like being crushed beneath a mountain. In trying to protect myself from that pain, I let her carry on fighting a battle she was ready to leave behind. She was incredible, my warrior, and I'm so sorry that I didn't give her the peace she deserved. It's been years since she passed, yet I still do the math in my head. How old she would be, what she might be interested in, whether she would have loved school if she'd ever been well enough to attend. But the truth is, I will never know. That's the burden I live with now. The weight of fighting so hard for a life that was always half-lived, and the fear that my daughter spent her last moments trying to comfort me. No child should ever have to do that. So I carry this guilt with me every day. Maybe sharing this confession with strangers who might understand these impossible choices will ease a small part of the burden. Or maybe it won't, but someone needs to hear it. Sometimes the strongest thing we can do for someone we love is to let them go. These intimate confessions unveil the intricate layers of human emotions and relationships, exposing how even the most well-meaning intentions can result in unforeseen pain. They highlight the profound challenges faced in love, parenting, coping with trauma, and unexpected life changes, reminding us of the vital importance of open communication, taking responsibility for our actions, and having the courage to make difficult, yet necessary decisions for ourselves and our loved ones. If these heartfelt stories struck a chord with you, please take a moment to share your reflections, like the video, and subscribe for more honest explorations of life's toughest challenges. Your support helps us continue bringing these important conversations to light.